So you forget to put the little pee towel over, and then he pees all over the wall.
Has he got you?
Oh.
And we're live. What's going on, Carter?
What's happening, Jeff? Been a long time.
I know. Well, congratulations, Dad.
Oh, thanks, man.
How's it feel?
Do you see the bags under my eyes?
How much sleep you getting these days?
He's been a really good baby so far. I think more than probably a lot of people, but at the same time, it's intermittent sleep. Like, I have yet to have a full night of sleep. And so you're like, oh, like I slept, 8 hours, give or take, but it's from 10 p.m. to like 10 a.m. where you get 8 hours in a 12 hours. So you're not really like, oh, like I just slept for 7 or 8 hours and I feel refreshed. You're like, I was up at midnight. I was up at 2. I was up at 4. I was up at 6.
Oh, man.
Lisa's doing the brunt of it. She's doing the feedings and stuff. And she's been a real champ. And she was like, this is way easier than residency. Because she didn't have to get up and do surgery. She'd be on call and phone would ring at 2:00 in the morning and she'd have to get up, get dressed, drive to the hospital, assess the situation, go into the OR, and do surgery at 3 a.m. And so she's like, this is easy. I'm like, oh, no, it's not easy.
Well, hey, that's good. That's at least one load off. You don't have to worry about the stress of that. So
no, but now the stress of the consistency of it is it's just day after day of the same thing, and it's like, man, and so then you get lackadaisical. You go through the motions, and so then you change him 100 times in a day, so you forget to put the little pee towel over, and then he pees all over the wall.
Has he got you?
Oh, he hadn't gotten me, but he's gotten the wall like 3 times. The carpet, and then the dog comes in, and the dog's like, something's right here, and you're like, yeah,
he marked his territory.
Yeah, we're like, please don't mark it on top of it. Like we're working on it. So we got the steamer.
This is my house. Get off me.
Oh my gosh. 2 mornings ago, yesterday morning, I don't know, they all run together. Lisa, we went back to sleep and she wakes up and I don't know, it's probably like 9 or something. And she goes, I guess I need to get up and clean up the nursery. And I was like, what, it's fine. She goes, no, I was changing his diaper in the middle of the night and he just had like explosive diarrhea and it shot off the table onto the carpet. And she was like, I just left it.
Oh no. Oh,
she's like, and it stains. I should probably get up. So then we were like getting the dog carpet, whatever resolve and the steam cleaning, and I was listening.
I don't remember that part, but I'm sure there's a lot I blacked out.
I was like, what the heck? So it's it's just a different it's just a different time, and everybody, I think you're right, I think everybody that has kids and enjoys kids blacks out they're like, oh, I know it was tough, but they're so wonderful. And you're like, bro, come on, you were not saying that in the first however many months and weeks.
No, yeah, it was pretty brutal. I remember those nights where I was just totally exhausted. I just wanted some kind of sleep, and I don't know what, it wasn't early on, it was probably like later on. I'm trying to remember the point where I was like, literally, like, I want to hit the pause on life button for a second. Like, I just need to time out for a second. Just hit pause. I'm going to step away and just chill for a second. So, does he have a name yet?
Yeah, Noah.
Noah. That's cool.
Noah.
That's very cool.
So yeah, so Noah.
I like it. Very, very fitting.
He's
like
you know, he can't count to 2 yet, so he's got big shoes to fill.
The days of Noah. I like it. Well, cool, man. Well, hey, I know we're kind of on this journey to grow our YouTube channels and see what we can make happen. I'm guessing you haven't really thought of YouTube at all or growing anything other than your family. So what's the update?
So the update is I went live, like, I'll have to check, 20 days ago. So right after he was born, a couple days after he was born, I got home and it was like 3 days after or something. And so people from the old community, they were like, oh, something, they were doing different things. I don't actually remember very well. I was like, what? And I was like, yeah, I'm celebrating, you know, just had a kid. And then I was like, sure. So they came on and so I haven't done anything in 3 weeks basically. And, but I don't remember what the subscriber count was. I've lost a few but after I did that video, my subscriber count went up like 10.
Nice.
And I'm still, I think I'm still up from the last time we did a sub count, because I did this. I was like, all right, you know, like, and there's still some, I need to get back on, this is what tonight is getting back on the proverbial bike and saying, okay, like, we have a new, sort of, not foundation, but sort of a new starting point in terms of like the scheduling. And it's been long enough, and I think you knew better than I did that this was going to be kind of a train wreck for a few weeks. So I appreciate your patience.
Yeah.
And the other thing that we've had, which has been pretty crazy, is all the family that has come in, and so it's been nice to some degree, except for like he slept whenever they would hold him. They're like, he's an angel, he's so sweet, and then like they leave and he's like worn out from being held, so then he was fussy and you're like, what is this?
My favorite is they're holding him and they're like, oh, and then he goes to the bathroom, they're like, here you go.
Have you heard the story? Do you want to hear the story?
What story?
The like 5-minute version of the birth, like that morning, that day.
Sure.
So it's pretty wild. She calls me. She'd gone to work. I had fallen back asleep, and it's like 8:30, 8:25. She calls. I see it's her. I'm like, I don't know if I should answer. I was like, whatever.
In the morning?
Yeah. It's like 8 days before the due date. And I was like, she probably just needs me to like bring something to work or like go run an errand or something. So I was like, whatever, I'll pick it up just in case. Yeah, I'll pick up, because you can just leave a message or she'll text me. And so I'm like, hey, she goes, my water broke. And I was like, what? And she was like, are you awake? And I'm like, I am now. Like, what's going on? She's like, take a shower, get the bags, and like come pick me up. And she's like, I was in the middle of a procedure. She was doing like stuff.
Oh.
So
hold that thought.
28 minutes later, I was picking her up from work. We're 5 minutes from the hospital. Drive to the hospital by like 9. Drop her off at the ER. I go park. The security guy brought a wheelchair out. You know, she goes in. I go park. And then, you know how they tell you, like, dads to be will, like, completely lose their mind and, like, get all, like, silly and just forget everything and whatever. And I was like, oh, whatever. You know, I've been in, like, tough situations in India and Haiti, and, like, I'm good. But there were all these things that everybody said you need, you know, it's going to take, first labor is going to take like 15 to 24 hours or whatever, you know, make sure you bring a phone charger, bring a book, like bring a change of clothes, like you just have all this stuff. And so I was like, okay. So I like park the car, lock the car, walk away. I get 20 feet away and I'm like, oh, I need the phone charger, you know? So I like go back to the car, get the phone charger. And then I like I go back, and then I was like, I probably should at least like grab a book or something. Like, you know, I was like, who knows? Like, and I was like, no, don't grab a book. Like, just get her set. Then I can get the bags. You know, come back out to the car. We'll have time. So I just go back into the emergency room with all of those fights, because the people out in the parking lot must have thought I was a complete nut. I was just walking back and forth, locking my car, unlocking, ding, ding, dong, ding, ding, you know, whatever. I was like, they're like, what's going on? So I get in the ER, and everybody's wearing masks and stuff. They're like, you with the lady, you know, the pregnant lady? I was like, yeah. And they were like, you know, I can't hear anyway, but they've got like plexiglass up, masks, you know, and I'm like, what? Like, what are you wearing? And they were like, you got to go around the corner, you got to go to the elevator, you got to go, so you like take 2 rides and then get in the elevator.
You're gonna have the baby like, before you get there.
I was like, can you have a map? Like, you know, so I walk around the corner, I walk around another corner, I find the elevator, I get in the elevator, and I'm like, what floor did they say? I have no idea what floor. So then I have to walk back to the front of the ER, and I'm like, excuse me, like, what floor?
I'm one of those guys now. I'm one of those guys.
I was like, this is ridiculous. And so they were like, it's just the next floor up. I was like, you could have just told me where the stairs were, and I could, like, what the heck? I didn't need to walk all around Moore County to find the elevator. So I get to I go up, and she's being checked in, and I'm like, they're like doing paperwork, and she's like, I can't talk, I'm having, you know, contractions. It's like,
she's
can you finish
labor.
this? I'm like, didn't we do this? Didn't, like, we already go to the OBGYN?
Isn't
like,
it ridiculous?
Don't y'all have like the paperwork? Like,
isn't it ridiculous?
How is it possible y'all are just now doing the paperwork for this? Terrible planning.
Yep.
And so finally we get everything done. So I fill it out. I finish. We're like, yes. I was like, no, this is it. You know, whatever, blah, blah, blah. Here's where we live. Why does it matter? We're not going anywhere. Like, you can ask me this question anytime in the next day or two. And so we get to the delivery room or whatever, they check her, and they're like, oh, like, you know, you're pretty dilated, but, you know, we may have some time. The OBGYN comes in, checks, like, oh, okay, we probably have a little bit. You can get like an epidural if you want it, and we have to do blood work. And he leaves, and like 10 minutes later, she's like, the baby's coming. And I was like, what? Like, we've been at the hospital 30 minutes. So
wow.
It was less than 2 hours from like, I'm going into labor, water breaks, to like baby first one. And so then the doctors are like,
wow.
And the nurses, they were like, this is your first child? Like, this is the fastest. There are 2 other women who have been here for like all night in labor. And you just like were at work and had the baby before the other 2 did this morning. And so then I was like, they were like, this is your first? And she was like, yeah. And I was like, well, I don't know. Maybe it's not. I mean, it's my first, you know. Like, I'm getting skeptical now if you're having babies this fast. Like, what? I did such a good job keeping my mouth shut during labor. I can tell you that. There were so many times where I wanted to say jokes, and it was like, this is not the time.
Good job. You're getting older. Older and wiser.
So anyway, but yeah, like, I don't know. Maybe they said the second time will be even faster, and I can't even imagine. So it's going to be like, bing, choo, like done. I know. Whoa. What's that? Is that a fly in the room? No, I just had a baby. What?
So, well, that's great, man. Yeah, I mean, I was last couple weeks, I've been...
Yeah, I want to hear your story. Dallas?
What?
Big D?
Yeah, so I went to the podcast movement in Dallas end of August, and that was really fun. Got to see a lot of great people, a lot of people that I've been following online for a long time. Yeah, just kind of put faces with names, caught up with some old friends, and met some new friends. And yeah, it was really interesting. I mean, I got to talk to, actually relevant to this series, I got to talk to the head of YouTube podcasting, Stephanie Chan.
Oh, interesting.
So, yeah, it was really cool to hear her talk, and kind of, she was with her team trying to understand the podcast industry and where YouTube fits into that, because we're at this crucial point in content creation land where we're creating this podcast right now. We're recording it on video. So does that make us podcasters or YouTubers, right? Because we could theoretically strip the audio, stream it on the podcast platforms, or some of the podcast platforms could have video along with the audio, right? So there's kind of this interesting dynamic where the podcasters were like, are we YouTubers? Are we live streamers? Are we podcasters? Like, are we video casters? Like, what are we now? We're just personalities now. And so I heard Mark Cuban talk. He was launching, along with some co-founders, the Fireside app. Actually, he launched it. I didn't even really know this. He launched it a year prior at Podcast Movement. And this was kind of the like reveal to the public where everyone can sign up for it. It's called Fireside. And so I actually signed up for it while I was listening to him talk. And it's actually a really interesting app because you can like live stream, and it's kind of like YouTube and podcasting apps all wrapped in one with chat on it. So it takes some of the like Clubhouse features of like audio chat with the live streaming of YouTube, and then it also acts as like the podcast distribution, so you can distribute it to Spotify and Apple and everything. So it's kind of like your one-stop shop in an app. So it's a pretty cool idea, actually. I haven't really messed with it yet, but I'll probably play with it soon. But yeah, it was a really good conference. Met a lot of folks. Kind of got a lay of the land on the industry, and video is definitely front and center as a big topic, and how to grow your audience to pretty much unlock everything else you want to do in business. And then heard a lot of good talks. But overall, yeah, really good week. So we were, I think it was like we're just sitting there at the conference. This was like the 20, whatever the last week of August was. What was that? And I was just we were sitting there in the afternoon. In walks Ben Shapiro and his whole like entourage of bodyguards. And they all have yarmulkes on, and they're, you know, they had the Daily Wire had a big booth at the conference, right? And it had Jordan Peterson, you know, and Ben Shapiro and all the people, Candace Owens, like all the people, conservative, you know, personalities that they represent at their booth. I mean, the pictures of them. And he just showed up just to, you know, say hi and stop by. So, you know, I avoided, I was like, well, there he is, you know, that's cool. But I wasn't like trying to break into the bodyguard, you know, barricade. And then some of our friends that knew who he was, they were like, "Oh, Ben Shapiro," and they like ran up, and like the bodyguards were like, I guess it's cool," and they just like took selfies with him, and he was real nice, and he said, "Hey, can you send me those selfies real quick?" And they were like, "Sure." So they sent them to him, and then he was at his booth for like 15 minutes max, and then he left, and so it was pretty cool. You know, everybody's like, "All right, that's cool." Well, apparently someone at the conference had a mental breakdown and complained to the owners that his presence caused her, you know, a mental, you know, episode or whatever. And so they apologized for his presence at the conference.
I saw that. I didn't
and
realize.
So literally,
I didn't
I'm at
realize
dinner.
you were there.
Yeah, I was there, like with Ben Shapiro in the same. So literally, like, I go, no drama at the conference whatsoever. I go to dinner. I'm at dinner, and my buddy like lifts his cell phone up. He's like, "Are you seeing this? This is blowing up on Twitter right now." And I was like, "What?" Yeah. And so all of a sudden, like, everything's hitting the fan online, right? Like Twitter's blowing up. Like everybody's like freaking out. Like, how can you be, you know, upset at somebody's presence? Like they can't just like be themselves, and like you're just freaking out about it. And like, so then that night, Ben Shapiro puts out, it's either that night or the next day or something, but he puts out like his response to it. And he's like, apparently I'm Darth Vader, or I'm like the most dangerous man in the world or something. Like, I forget what the title was, but it had the picture of the selfie of my friends on there, like, hey, like in front of him. So if you go to his YouTube channel, those are the folks we were having dinner with. But anyway, super funny story. So like my brother and my dad are hitting me up like, aren't you there? Like, we're hearing all this junk going down. And so, you know, anyway, it was a very interesting dynamic of, because there were so many different perspectives being represented, right, at the largest podcast conference in the country. I mean, there was bound to be something that happened, right? I mean, you have like the conservatives, the liberals, the Christians, the atheists, the gay and transgender, and like everybody was there, right? So I was actually surprised it was pretty chill, and everybody there loved each other. I mean, we're all podcasters; it doesn't matter like who you are. But now Ben Shapiro's like, we're not going next year. We're pulling out everything, and like we'll have our own conference, right?
Oh, it says I'm clearly a very dangerous man.
Yeah, that's it.
Oh, that's too funny.
Yeah.
That's hilarious. Yeah, I mean, it's kind of sad. Like, what do you think about this sort of alternate economy? I know Charlie Kirk's talked about it a lot, and and it seems like there's a lot of conservative business people that are trying to capitalize and say, well, then this is a place for you. And so we're just redoing YouTube with Rumble, or redoing Twitter with Getter or Parler or whatever. And then, we're going to redo this with this. And, and it's just sort of like, yeah.
Well, I mean, so put it this way, like, yes, you can do that, and that's fine as long as you're in a government infrastructure or system that allows it, right? Like, if you're in a system that suppresses certain ideas or speech, then I don't care what you recreate, like they're going to shut it down, right? So you can do that for a while as long as it's tolerated, but as soon as like the government just decides like, nope, you're against the government's ideology, like you're shut down anyway. So yeah, you can do that. So right now it's voluntary, right? It's like if you're the mainstream media and you're saying, hey, we don't want certain ideas on our platform, that's your prerogative as a business. You can shut that down all you want. And so all the conservative side is saying is like, hey, we don't want to be censored. We want to say whatever we want to say. And so we're going to create our own networks. I think that's great. Everybody has the freedom to do that in this country, right? I think the difficulty, of course, is like, okay, now you're not going to have as many people, but you're going to have the people that want to hear what you're having to say. So it's kind of a positive and negative. But I mean, I'll give you an example. So I've made the case for a while that the government has to get rid of cash before they go to a full central bank digital currency, right? It's pretty hard to incentivize people to move to a totally digital currency if they can get scared and move to cash as an alternative to both their quote unquote numbers in a bank account, dollars, to some new FedNow currency that they're pushing for next summer, right? July 2023 is when they announced that it's going to come out. That's way faster. I mean, I was saying, next 3 to 5 years, and people are like, no way. Well, how about next summer? Right? So, I mean, it's here, it's coming. And so, but talking about the voluntary thing, who just announced that they were going cashless? Starbucks.
Oh.
Okay. So how could you get to cashless without the government even lifting a finger?
If all the businesses did?
Total voluntary. The businesses just all do it. And they say, you know what? We're not accepting cash anymore. So you can have cash, but good luck spending it anywhere. So effectively, what happens in a society when you can legally have cash, but you can't spend it anywhere? Now you have to play the game. Now you have to be on whatever system they say you need to be on. So the government, the conservatives can create their entire media separate from mainstream. But at what point do the rails get shut off where we're not even letting this traffic go through the internet, right? Like we're not letting this even, you have to create your own mesh network of like internet to even survive, right? That's where it gets really interesting. So my question is, how long will you be able to operate completely separately from the mainstream rails?
Well, and that's what I thought was really interesting about Jordan Peterson moving over to the Daily Wire and joining forces, and then they're trying to make a multimedia, movies, everything, like an empire, basically just trying to be like a conservative Disney, or something. And so I thought it was really interesting because Jordan Peterson was like, I don't know if you ever watched the video. He put out like a 5-minute video or something of why he joined forces with the Daily Wire and went behind the paywall.
Oh, I did watch that. Yeah.
All that kind of stuff. And it was like, he was like, I know a lot of you people are going to be frustrated, but like, here's what we're trying to do. And so I thought it was really interesting because he said, this allows me not to be worried about, being canceled on whatever. And I was like, until the government pulls the plug on the Daily Wire. I mean, it might have bought you 6 months. Who knows?
Have you seen the Dave Chappelle thing where he's like, I'm done with comedy? Have you seen that bit?
Maybe. You remind me.
Yeah, the gist is like, once they start coming after comedians who are their job is to say stuff that gets people riled up and like gets them like upset or laughing, right? Just like ridiculous stuff. As soon as like comedians can't be comedians anymore and they're worried about if they're going to say something wrong and get canceled, like game over, dude. Like